Mack Weldon. Since the very beginning of this show, those are words I have felt privileged to say. What a quality product. I say that from personal experience. Mack Weldon is a premium men's essentials brand that believes in smart design, premium fabrics, and simple shopping. Not only do Mack Weldon's underwear, socks, and shirts look good, they perform well too. They have a line of silver underwear and shirts that are naturally antimicrobial. That means they don't smell. If you don't like your first pair, you keep it. They'll still refund you. No questions asked. I wear my Mack Weldons all the time. Specifically, I save my Mack Weldons in the drawer until I need some confidence. If I'm going on stage for a big show or I got a big meeting or something, I wear my Mack Weldons because they make me feel so good. My wife says they're a flattering cut. For 20% off your first order, visit MackWeldon.com. Enter the promo code BEAUTIFUL at checkout. That's MackWeldon.com, promo code BEAUTIFUL. Hello to all the punk rockers down the alley. It's Beautiful Anonymous. 1 hour, one phone call. No names, no holds barred.
I'd rather go one-on-one. I think it'll be more fun, and I'll get to know you, and you'll get to know me.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Beautiful Anonymous, Chris Gethard here, thanking you so much for listening, supporting me in general. So, if you've been listening to the show, I've been going on the road all summer long, and wrapped up Austin, Texas by the time you heard this. Recording it before I go to Austin. Love that town. Hoping it goes well. That means that we got our London taping coming up. They opened up some more seats for the London taping. I also have a stand-up show, and one of them sold out. One of the stand-up shows is not. You go get tickets for all those things. See you soon, London. I remember last time I was in London, I've talked about on the show how career suicide, I was duking it out, couldn't wrap my head around it, but I will say so many Beautiful Anonymous fans came out, so psyched to bring the show to London and meet all you guys again. And I get those tickets, they're going fast. chrisgeth.com is where you can get the tickets. You can also find out information on my new book, Lose Well. It's coming out. You got a few weeks left to pre-order it, and man, would it be a huge relief if you did. It would be a weight off your guy's shoulder. So if you're planning on getting the book, why not pre-order it? Remove some stress from my life, make the publishing company happy. This week, we got a little pre-order incentive. There's a few of them on there, including one where I will send you an outgoing voicemail message as a thank you for your purchase. People buy multiple copies of the book. I will actually call you on the phone. I spent this week calling a bunch of people. I wound up talking to all these people for I think it says it's a 2-minute call. I wound up talking to everybody for 10 minutes. They're just nice people. That's the thing I've learned going out on the road, doing projects like this, doing these giveaways. The people who listen to this show are just thoughtful people, just kind people, and I thank God for all of you for listening. I really do. So you want to pre-order the book? Go do it. And if you want to do the crazy one where you order a bunch of copies to give away as presents and then we talk on the phone, we can talk on the phone. chrisgeth.com, again, is where all that info's at. Exciting thing about being on the road. Want to make sure I don't forget. I did a show, one of my shows in Salt Lake City at Wise Guys. I had a really great time meeting all you guys at Wise Guys. The nicest people came up to me after the show. There was one night where I met 2 callers. You guys, on the same night, I met 39-year-old grandma and Major Postal Bitch, 2 recent standout callers, beloved by the community. So nice to meet both of them. Hope they're doing well. And wanted to say something that I actually thought was really nice. Meeting I feel bad referring to a human as Major Postal Bitch. It is a name that was self-granted, but meeting the caller from that call, what a sweet guy, and went out of his way. He said, Chris, I just wanted to, I knew I was going to be seeing you, so I didn't want to post this on the Facebook group or put it online. I wanted to just tell you face-to-face that, I saw a lot of people's reactions to the show, and I know that I described some situations that got out of control, and said, please let the listeners know I take domestic abuse really seriously, and I volunteer now, and I've worked hard, and there were stories there about drug use and fighting and whatnot, and I face to face had a conversation with the subject of the episode, Major Postal Bitch, where he wanted me to reassure all the listeners, you gotta deal with your choices, deal with the life you lead and try to do right. And it was so nice to meet him face to face. And he just really, he said it was very important for me to relay that. And I wanted to make sure we sent that message out there into the world, because I thought I really loved that call while I was doing it. I thought some of those stories were, very, in a certain way, sort of extreme. Good listening, exciting to hear, but also real life consequences. And to meet the real life person, he said, no, there have been consequences, and I'm working really hard, and I take it seriously, and your listeners should know that. I thought that was a good example to set. Such a cool thing. All right. Last week's episode, we talked with someone who worked at Facebook and owned 2 gigantic cats that once kept him from taking a job. I have to say, the beautiful anonymous Facebook community, which is such a nice oasis of positivity in the increasingly negative cesspool that is the internet at large. Facebook, we just broke 30,000 members, by the way, on the Facebook group. Come join up, discuss episodes. One of my favorite things. First of all, you'll be happy to hear, in the discussion thread for the episode, the caller sent Harry Nelson, good old Harry Nelson, some pictures of the cats in question, posted some pictures of the cats. They're now down to the living cat, rather. The one passed away. The cat is 16 pounds now, has lost some weight, 16 pounds. So you can see a picture of the 16-pound cat. Also want to make sure I give special thanks to Laura, who posted a picture of herself holding a 20-pound cat that she owns. And Allison replied and said, "The girthiest angel I have ever seen. What an immense squish." So if you want to see the girthiest angel and an immense squish of a cat, you join the Facebook group. Someone else, let me scroll down to this one. Serena posted a picture of her cat that weighs 28 pounds. What the hell are you talking about? Here's my 28 pounds of cat. He lived with us only a short while as my other kitties were not welcoming with him. Yeah, because it's a monster in their world. But his new owner sends me updates all the time. He's a Norwegian forest cat and the gentlest and most lovey-dovey giant you've ever seen. With a picture of a 28-pound cat being held by... Dude. Oh, God, cat pictures in the internet. It's why the internet was invented. Okay, this week's episode, an interesting one. I would say an intense one. It's one that I've thought a lot about since we first held the call. A lot of people, I think, are going to be very fascinated by this episode. Not everyone is going to have positive feelings about it. There's going to be a range there, and that's okay. If you discuss it online, I will just ask, remember, retain your humanity. Human beings are human beings. It's a person who's opening up, being vulnerable. This is someone who lives a traveling lifestyle. That's something I can identify with. This is someone who's on the road, as you're going to hear. And part of living the road life, especially if you get into it when, during stretches, when you're single, you meet people, you go from city to city, and maybe you meet up with people for fleeting instances. This is someone who I think is in the call. It's fair to say, right, Harry? Wrapping their head around the fact that maybe this has gone too far. This is someone who has some addiction issues. And it's a really interesting call, really intense call. There's going to be some moments that I think people sympathize with. There's going to be some moments that people draw some lines about. There's going to be some moments that people feel like crossed some lines. I think the caller is aware of all that and is trying to sort all that out, trying to rationalize what all that means and what some of the choices they made along the way reflect and what impact they've had. It's an interesting one. I also sing a lot. I sing a lot of bad punk rock songs along the way. So it's still some fun there, but I tell you, it's an issue that we don't talk about so much. And we get to hear it from someone who's kind of sorting out being in the middle of the issue. So there's sympathy to be had. There's some shock to be had. But overall, there's empathy to be had. So let's remember that. Let's enjoy the call.
Thank you for calling Beautiful Anonymous. A beeping noise will indicate when you are on the show with the host.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
This is Chris.
This is Chris.
I feel like they always say, "Is this Chris?" Because I don't think that you ever think about that you're just waiting and then Chris comes.
Yeah, traditionally, hi, is this Chris? Is said at the beginning of most calls.
Right. Well, happy to be here.
Happy to have you.
How are you?
How am I? I tell you, I'm in one of these weird, like, foggy mindsets. I got just last night, pretty late in the day, I got asked to do a role on Crashing, Pete Holmes' show on HBO. And
What a fantastic show.
yeah, I really love it. And the great Judd Apatow is an executive producer, and he's been a real mentor to me. And Pete Holmes,
Yeah, I actually
old
watched
friend.
his the A&E show. Culture Shock has like a Freaks and Geeks documentary.
I haven't seen it yet. How is it?
He, oh my God, my heart was about to burst the whole time. It was so beautiful.
That's awesome. I mean, the Gary
It made it all feel so cool.
the Gary Shandling doc he did for HBO, I think, is like next level. Next level.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. So,
Okay, I thought maybe you were cutting out a little bit there.
it's talking about
One second,
Gary
I'm going to
Shandling.
switch to my. I'm going to switch.
Gary
I
Shandling.
have headphones on, but I'm going to take them off and just switch to normal phone. I'm sorry. One
No,
second.
no worries. Let's do it.
Cool.
Just trying to talk about Gary Shandling a little bit, but
Okay. Hello.
hi.
Okay. Yeah, the show is the episode is incredible, and it was a lot more emotional than I expected it to be. I didn't realize that the show was kind of just like. I mean, I realized how important it was to those people. Me and my brother used to watch it when we were very young. I mean, it was on TV when I was maybe 12, so it was 13. So it was pretty. It hit me pretty hard. But then, I watched all those people become famous, and I knew that it had a lot to do with them being on that show. But I was still kind of blown away by how well, maybe it was just the documentary captured it so emotionally. It was really special. You should watch it as soon as you can if you're a fan.
I will. I'll check it out.
It's wonderful.
Check it out.
I've
I've been up since 5 a.m.
I'm having a weird day. Can I tell you about my day?
Yeah, okay.
Wait, did you finish talking about your day?
No, but that's okay. It's not about me. I mean, you asked. I was
It
trying
is
to
cool that
answer.
you're doing Crashing. I remember that you said that 3 seconds ago. It's
Yeah.
a wonderful show.
But yeah, I just wanted to give you a warning because I've been up since like 5 a.m. and I was.
That's great. I'm also exhausted.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't want to talk about my work because I feel like it would be very revealing. It would make it pretty easy for a lot of people that I know listen to the show that may be able to determine who I am.
Uh-huh.
But suffice it to say that I travel for work, and I worked until 3 a.m. on Sunday night. Sunday morning, Saturday night, and flew home at 6 a.m. and then slept for a few hours, and then just have pretty much worked since. And now it's Wednesday night, and I leave for the airport in about an hour and a half, 2 hours. I gotta be there, so that's weird.
You
I'm
fly
pretty
out.
much gonna hang up this phone call, go to the airport, and then work for a month.
Wow, a month. You do the frequent flyers?
But yeah, I got a couple points, but they don't seem to do me much good.
If you're flying as much as you say you are, and you're not doing a frequent flyer, then frankly, my friend, I don't even know where to begin with you.
I don't book my own airfare. My employers do.
Ooh.
So perhaps I'm just a little dim, and I don't know how to play the system well enough.
Yeah.
But for me, I don't always fly the same airline, so I have an okay amount of points with a lot of airlines.
You got to focus up and strategize, buddy.
I agree with you.
Focus up and strategize.
I appreciate the check because I agree. I think it's something that I need to get my hands on. But yeah, honestly, on the list of things, it's not on the top of my to do.
Okay.
But yeah, like I was saying before, as exhausted as I am from this, from all this travel, it's also I've been having a hard time recently determining how to. I feel very unsettled and unsatisfied about my life, in just that I kind of happened into my job and I love it, and it represents. It's so heavily involved in the things that matter the most to me, and I'm very lucky to do what I do and make money doing it. And I think a lot of people would love to do what I do. And I think a lot of people do it for free because it's a wonderful thing to do. But it's kind of lost its charm. I don't feel attached to it anymore. And it feels like a paycheck, which is something that I never wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's been difficult to reconcile that. Something that used to fill my heart up entirely is now causes me to feel an incredible amount of emptiness.
And you just sound like a
I feel like
stand-up
there's
comedian.
just like a giant nameless hole in my chest.
I feel like
I don't have any permanence in my life.
I feel like we'll be able to connect because you're describing every stand-up comedian I know. You travel all the time at weird.
Yeah.
Although no one buys our airfare for us. That's how I know you're not a comedian. Is you're not schlepping out for your own airfare. But yeah, this idea that you travel around doing the thing you love, and a lot of people do it for free because it's the dream. And but it also
I'm just
sort
going
of
to tell you what I
isolates
do
you.
because I don't feel like being vague anymore.
Okay.
I do road crew for bands. I like tour with bands.
I had a feeling.
I
was going to say you're in music management.
No, I do. I'm actually a merch guy.
Merch guy. Big bands, though. That stuff flies. That's not an easy gig.
No, it's not. All the bands I work for sell, twice my year, twice the amount of a year's worth of rent for me a night.
Damn.
Usually the case. So it's a lot of work and it's a lot of stress, but it's also being around things that are very important to me. And it's something that I did because I was, the way I got into it was basically just by I was very involved in it my whole life. I just loved it. I loved music. It was all that mattered. And then when it came time to go to college, I didn't go and instead went and toured with some really close friends of mine and just did the thing where you just sleep on floors and you put a tip jar out that says, we'll mow your lawn and do your dishes if you let us sleep on your floor. And then we didn't get murdered and stayed on people's floors all over the country. And then just did it and did it and did it. We were just kind of fucked up in the head and just wanted to go to different places and get drunk with each other.
Mm-hmm. DIY, baby.
Get drunk and you get it.
DIY, baby. Black flag sleeping in the church, baby.
Yeah, well, it wasn't quite that dangerous.
Get in the van, baby. Henry Rollins.
Get in the van, baby. No, but I think we came in at the end where it was a little less. I feel like we were one of the last eras of the DIY lifestyle that because when I started getting into music very heavily and involving myself in it, it was right before the internet. So I feel like me and my friends and a lot of the people I know that are doing cool stuff now came in right at the end of that, right at the end of
Sounds like we might be of similar age. I'm 38.
I'm 31.
You're 31. Oh, so you're younger than I am. See, because I feel like I remember the days when it's you'd find new music by reading zines. You'd read fanzines, which were largely homemade.
I grew up in a shitty small town, and we didn't have anything, and I didn't have much money growing up. So we didn't have even when people started getting the internet, I probably didn't have it. But I got it. I started going to shows really young, 12. I started to go to shows.
Yeah, me too. I had a cool older brother.
Small punk shows and
You had a cool older brother? Did you have a cool older brother?
No, he's only about a year, less than a year and a half older than me. We were both very young. A single mom and no dad, and she was
so no supervision.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't even believe some of the things that we used to do. We would just fly and then just go 2 towns over to a horrible place that the first time I heard the name of almost every single drug was in the alleyway that the front door of that punk venue was in. And I was 13 going there. But I heard about bands from just reading liner notes, the thank yous, and then buying their records.
Yeah, and you look up stuff that's on the same label, and you start to realize people cross over.
Yeah, and I miss that, being able to trust a label completely. When I was a kid, man, Lookout Records, I can't imagine just... there was this one band that was on Lookout Records that I always remember because they were the only band that I just found in liner notes or in this catalog that came in the CDs, and
Who's that?
Were horrible.
Because I was a pretty big Lookout fan.
Oh, well, right on, man. Do you remember that band Rife?
Rife.
They rarely get a reaction from people, and I think the only reason I remember them is because they were the only one that wasn't good. Yeah.
I don't remember Rife.
I think it was Lookout. I mean, it could have been, I don't know. It's been a while.
I'm gonna go ahead and list some of my favorite Lookout records releases for anyone who might be listening.
Please do.
Tell me if you agree or disagree. Number one of my greatest albums of all time. I remember the day I bought it. I got in trouble because I skipped out on practice for the school musical my freshman year of high school. The Mr. T Experience, Love Is Dead. Great album. Blue vinyl.
You, sir, that would have been my first. That would be top 3 for sure.
We're talking
Respect. Continue.
Track 1, Sackcloth and Ashes. Track 2, Ba 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 Ba. Great tunes.
And where do you go from Ba 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 Ba? You wouldn't imagine where could you go from there?
Because that is such a high point. What is after Ba 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 Ba? Now we're, what is it? Thank You for Not Being One of Them? A song close to my heart?
Is that? I thought it was.
No, I'm probably wrong on the order. I don't remember.
I wrote a book about rock and roll. I might be wrong. I was trying to give you a big entrance into that, but we both blew it.
Because when they've been
I was always a big fan of
it again. I want to thank you for not being one of them.
What a fantastic band, man.
For not being one of them. Whoa,
and if you think about the Mr. T Experience, it's really special because they've been around for a really long time. Like they started in like
the 80s,
mid 80s. Like I want to say like 86.
Gilman Street.
And they were just the poppiest thing, and there wasn't any of that going on then.
No.
Like they're like, I mean, the Descendants, of course, but there wasn't really a lot of like people making like playing clean guitars and playing like like that poppy of like.
And the Descendants were still angry.
There's not a lot of that going on.
Descendants were still angry. MTX was more sad.
Correct. But the Descendants were also goofy.
They were
goofy. The Descendants mean a whole lot to me, man. Can
Yeah.
I tell you how much the Descendants mean to me, and then you could tell me your second favorite Lookout record?
You got a Milo tattoo? What are we talking?
Of course. I mean, I got one on my 18th birthday. I don't want to grow up.
Insular punk rock talk. That should do great with our community. Okay, how much do they mean to you, though? Was that what you were going to say?
So, yeah, when I started going to that shitty punk venue, I was like, I wasn't a small person, and I was so scrawny that I used to like, I was attracted to punk because it was for weirdos, and that's great. And it was for people who didn't fit in, and all my punk friends came from broken homes, and it all felt okay being around people that were also fucked up. And then I would go to punk shows, and then, I would just still get picked on. Like they would just kind of push me around still and goof off to me because kids are kids, people are people, and they just like to pick on people that are small, and that's just normal for some people, and that just happens. So just being like a scrawny kid, I still get picked on there. So I was like, fuck punk rock, shit's dumb. It's for another fucking cool kids club. Like I don't want it. I listen to like Cool Kids by Screeching Weasel and shit and think about that.
It's a real cool club on the other side of town.
Yeah, yep.
It's a real cool club, and you're not part of it. Right?
That's right. And then I would go to these shows and still get picked on, so I said, screw punk. And then I heard the Descendants for the first time, I think because like Sublime covered them on that record,
Oh, I didn't know that.
They covered Hope on 40 Ounces to Freedom. It was the first time I've said 40 Ounces to Freedom in a long time. That's a ridiculous album title.
I think people might be liking my samples of the songs. I've now I've sang a little Mr. T Experience, MTX, sang a little Screeching Weasel. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I have a feeling we're going to talk a lot about punk rock. So if you want to
maybe.
We can.
Well, let me talk.
We can do that a lot.
Let me talk, my man.
I'm sorry.
You're nervous. You're nervous. I know. You're the Nervous Interrupter. That's the name of your punk band, the Nervous Interrupters. You're the Nervous Interrupter. I'm going to give a little sample of the Descendants so people know what we're talking about. The Descendants sound a little something like this. Even though you'll never come clean, you know it's true. These sheets are dirty, and so are you. Okay, continue. The Nervous Interrupter.
I appreciate that you chose that
I'm going to
song,
make fun of you every time
favorite.
you nervous interrupt from now on.
That's great.
I'm going to push you around like a kid at a show in the 90s.
Because it's very 80s.
It is.
I don't know what you said because I talked.
Yeah, it's okay. It is very 80s, but a great song.
Yeah.
Maybe a little misogynistic.
So anyway, it sucked there, and I didn't like it, and it made me uncomfortable. And then I heard the Descendants because Sublime covered them. And Sublime was a very accessible band at that point. And so I heard the Descendants, and then I bought the record because I liked it. And that was like one of my first bands that wasn't like a main punk band or a local punk band. It was like there was local bands playing shows around town, and then there was like the main ones like Blink-182 and Green Day that were on the radio that I knew about, and, you know, like MXPX and things that were just like high up enough that you just know of them. But Descendants were my first like real punk band, I guess I thought. And then I got the record and I saw a photo of them, and I couldn't believe how ugly and goofy they were. Yeah. And then they had tracks where it was just like whole tracks of them farting into a record, you know?
Yeah.
Like into a recorder.
Yeah. We're going to put out a special episode of Beautiful Anonymous like that. Beautiful farts from anonymous people. Or anyone who can call.
Is that right? I missed that one.
Anyone
that must be in the back catalog.
It's going to be on Stitcher Premium. We're gonna put it on. It's gonna be behind the paywall. There's people farting for an hour.
You can't just queue up for free on iTunes. But anyway, so the Descendants, seeing them and looking at them, and then hearing them, like they sounded tough to a degree because it's kind of fast and it has guts to it, but it's also very emotional. It's about girls and it's about being sad and it's about being fucked up and not fitting in, blah blah blah. And then
they look like me.
I never felt, yeah, me too, man. And I never felt like that ever before. And like that was the moment where I was like, you know, I don't know if I knew it then, but that was definitely the moment where I was just forever just seeing the Descendants and seeing what they looked like was the moment where I realized that I was never going to live like in a straight path kind of, you know, normal
good old
life.
Punk rock. I had a similar experience with that old punk rock. Had a similar experience. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and say this. We can return to punk rock later, and I'll keep listing some of my favorite cuts from the Lookout Records catalog. I also guarantee you that we've been going for 18 minutes, and that's all we've talked about. We have to talk about something besides punk rock, because I can guarantee that many people are going, this was interesting, and now it's not getting interesting. So you're saying that being in this music world, being on the edge of the music scene, traveling bands that are getting progressively bigger, it's burning you out. It's leaving you feeling empty inside, leaving you feeling hollow inside. So how is this affecting things? How is this affecting your life? I would imagine hard to find a way to make the positive changes in your life when you live a life that's intentionally foundationless.
That's intentionally fast, did you say?
Foundationless.
Oh, foundationless. You cut out there for a second. Yes, it's very difficult.
Intentionally foundationless. That could be the album title for any number of emo bands I grew up listening to. I bet our caller would agree. Shame I didn't get that joke out on the call. I could only get it out as I tell you about advertisements. The most punk rock thing of all, advertisements. Listen, guys, we got these ads coming up. They got promo codes. Use them if you're so inclined. Those promo codes help the show when you do. We'll be right back with more phone call after this. Support for today's show comes from Brooklinen. Named the winner of the Best of Online Bedding category by Good Housekeeping, Brooklinen is the fastest growing bedding brand in the world with over 20,000 5-star reviews. That's important. We all know that. Their mission, to bring 5-star hotel quality sheets to everyday life, offering luxury sheets without the luxury markup. Their method, eliminating the middleman to keep things more personal, from design to manufacturing to customer service and beyond. I sleep on Brooklinen sheets. I'm telling you, they are high quality. You slip into bed, and there's times where you just drift off a little easier, and it's because things are just going right, and because the products you've chosen to place in your sleep environment are quality ones. Brooklinen is one of these products, and it helps. It improves my sleep. Simply put, I get better sleep on the nights when those are the sheets on my bed. My Brooklinen sheets are the best, most comfortable sheets I've ever slept on. Brooklinen.com is giving an exclusive offer just for my listeners. Get $20 off and free shipping when you use promo code BEAUTIFUL at brooklinen.com. Brooklinen is so sure you'll love your new sheets that they offer a risk-free 60-night satisfaction guarantee and a lifetime warranty on all of their sheets and comforters. The only way to get $20 off and free shipping is to use promo code BEAUTIFUL at brooklinen.com. That's BROOKLINEN.com. Promo code BEAUTIFUL. Brooklinen. These really are the best sheets ever. These days, you can get practically everything on demand. Like this podcast right now, right? You listen when you want, when it's convenient for you. So why are you still taking trips to the post office when you can get postage on demand at Stamps.com? With Stamps.com, you can access all the amazing services of the post office right from your desk 24/7 when it's convenient for you. Buy and print official U.S. postage for any letter, any package, using your own computer and printer. Then the mail carrier picks it up. Just click, print, mail, and you're done. Couldn't be easier. I've used it myself. I have a lot of trouble figuring out things that involve technology and logistics and printing and this and that. Stamps.com was a dream. It was a breeze. Easy to use, intuitive, and it helps you out. You save a lot of time, save a lot of effort. No reason not to love Stamps.com. Right now, use the code BEAUTIFUL for this special offer. Up to $55 free postage, a digital scale, and a 4-week trial. Don't wait. Go to Stamps.com. Before you do anything else, click on the radio microphone at the top of the homepage and type in BEAUTIFUL. That's Stamps.com. Enter BEAUTIFUL. Thanks again to all of our sponsors. Now let's get back to the phone call. Hard to find a way to make the positive changes in your life when you live a life that's intentionally foundationless.
That's intentionally fast, did you say?
Foundationless.
Oh, foundationless. You cut out there for a second. Yes, it's very difficult.
Now, what's going on?
I don't know, man. I've been thinking a lot lately about whether or not it's like a chicken or the egg thing. Like, do I do what I do for a living because it like means so much to me, or is it because I need to run away from things like every month?
Yeah.
You know?
You're running away.
I mean, I've kept relationships going for a while, but just the freedom that I've had has kept me from truly experiencing them. And, you know, the last relationship I had was for 3.5 years, and I was home for maybe half of that. So was I in a relationship for a year and 3/4, or how does that work? You know, ask her if you can. I don't know. But yeah, it's really fucking hard, and the transitioning is super difficult because I never truly feel like I'm in one place. And I used to love the idea of being able to just cut and run, and now I'm in a place in my life where I'm particularly very alone. Like literally very alone. I moved to the other side of the country to be with my ex. We lived in an apartment together for 3.5 years, and then we split up. I left her, and then I stayed in that sad, weird little apartment for like, it's been about 7 months now. And
You're still there, huh?
You know, I don't know anybody out here because I never tried to have a social life because I've always been working or with her. So I spend all my time home alone, and that it's a pretty powerful experience. Like, I learned a lot, but it's really difficult at times. Did I answer your question? I don't even know.
I don't know, man. My thing is I ask you one question and then you just go. That's what I've noticed. You just go.
Anybody who knows me knows that I talk a lot.
Yeah, you just go. But you spout out a lot of stuff, but it gives me a lot to latch on to. So relationship, you gave it the honest shot. You moved to be with somebody, broke up. Now you're 31 years old. You're at an age where maybe the novelty of the road life is not as appealing as it used to be in that particular sense. I guess I just feel like something's got to give. You know, like I'm in a place where my job is not extremely exciting anymore, and it feels like a paycheck, like I said before, which is heartbreaking. And then I'm also at a place where like I could, you know, live anywhere. Like I have no ties to this place, and my job lets me. I can live anywhere I want because of my job. Yeah. So I feel like something's got to give. Like, should I just cut and run and move to fucking Germany or some shit and live there? See what that's all about. I hear Germany's cool. I hear Berlin's real cool.
You know?
So
yeah, I would live in Cologne. I think that's a really special city. Cologne.
All right. Now let me ask you. I got some questions to ask you. I got a big one.
Please.
It's my who knows? This is a stab in the dark. Might be nothing to this. Might bring some stuff up. You say it's been very hard for you to keep a relationship. You even said that your 3.5-year relationship, does that even count as 3 years when you're gone so much? You're on the road. You're the merch guy. You're the tip of the spear as far as overzealous fans who want to party. Is this a part? Mm-hmm. Is this a part of your life? Is this a part of it? This relationship conundrum? You know what I'm saying.
You're asking if me being on the road is a part, like being out there and having like unlimited opportunity?
I'm saying that look, you're a merch guy who loves to talk. And it sounds like you're working with bands of a level that they have some fanatics. There's girls who are talking to you. There's girls coming at you. I'm starting to connect all the dots is what I'm saying of it's so hard to have a relationship. Also, I'm on the road all the time. Well,
Yeah.
your buddy Gethard starts to wonder what's at the root of this.
I, I've done some things. See, it's always been, I've never had an easy time with fidelity and being, with one person forever has never been easy. But, it's something that I've fought and worked on, and it's just kind of, I have ADHD, and there's a lot of impulsiveness there. And I think as a younger person, the impulse, like giving into the impulse was impossible. And with age, it's become easier. And, with my ex, I was single for years before that. And, I was working on that specifically
On fidelity.
before I had met her, and working specifically on my ability to, I wondered if I was just incapable of being with one person, and I wasn't really open-minded enough to understand like the merits of polyamorous relationships or just alternative relationships in general. And but I met her, and I was just, I had this like very old school idea of just, she's the one that's going to give me the power within myself to actually put into play all these things that I've been spending these years alone working on. And to some degree it was correct. And then, I did, and, I was faithful to her, for a good long time. And then at the end of it, kind of why I left was because I knew that I was selling myself short and that I wasn't really able to do it. So that's pretty much why I left her.
Because the temptations were too great and you couldn't withstand?
No, it's not just about like having sex with people that I meet on tour. It's more about like different kinds of sex,
Well, I'm listening.
I'd never been with a man. I had never been with a trans person. And these were all things that excited me a great deal. And I just I've always been, punk rock, being around it as long as I have, and you get it. It's a very supportive community, or at least it can be. And I grew up around a lot of people who had a really good idea of all that. But I also grew up at the end of the, like I said before, like it was like Blink-182 was on the radio, and, calling your friends gay was still something I did up until I was like 15, 16, probably later. It's just, I grew up in a time and place where people weren't checking each other as much. And I think like someone who's in the punk scene, like 5, maybe 10 years younger than me, it's a lot better of a situation. But when I was coming out, you probably get it, being around comedians and stuff. It's like, people just say the worst shit they can think of just to make each other laugh, because you're in a band for 10 hours, and what else are you going to say?
And growing up punk too. That's another thing. I'm so overwhelmed and so overjoyed, being the old guy who still sometimes goes to a punk show, some of these DIY spaces, even though most of them in Brooklyn have been shutting down, this whole idea that punk rock shows are safe spaces is a thing. A lot of people hear that phrase. For anyone listening, that's a thing that's very popular in punk rock right now, is this idea of like, if you go to a punk show, the place is holding, you're safe there. That's a safe space no matter who you are. That's overwhelming, and that's new. That's a new part of the culture. When I was
very new, and it's not even.
Let me finish, interrupter. Interrupter. I'm going to start destroying you on that. You're the interrupter. Let me finish. Because I was
that worked. That was aggressive. That worked.
Yeah. I was gonna say, when I was a kid, and it sounds like you too, wherever you grew up, you would go to punk shows sometimes, and you didn't know if you were gonna get the shit beat out of you by skinheads. You didn't know that. You were gonna go to a punk show. You might hear some of the most close-minded stuff. It might be, you might get beat up by a bunch of like militant vegans back in the day. Like there was a lot of that stuff, or like militant Krishna bands that would beat you up. Like a lot of those different hardcore bands had these like very specific sets of ideals, and they'd fight you for them.
I have to interrupt. There was militant Krishna bands?
Oh yeah, there was Krishna hardcore.
Really?
I don't know how militant
Really?
the Krishna guys were, though. I think I mixed them all up in my head. Earth
Are you
Crisis was
saying
an
Christian or like Hare Krishna?
Krishna. Like,
Yeah.
right? Hold on. Wasn't 7 seconds? I don't think they were. I don't think they were militant. Yeah, Krishna Core. There's a whole wing of hardcore called Krishna
That's wild.
Core. Yeah, you got to get in on the
Exciting.
Krishna Core. My point being,
I had no idea.
punk rock gets very tribal and territorial and weird and at times closed-minded. And the idea that it's this bastion of open-minded thought is a beautiful, beautiful thing. But the idea that that's universal is relatively new. Used to be terrifying
I
to go
agree.
to. Sometimes you'd go to punk rock shows that were transcendent and beautiful. Sometimes you'd go and you'd feel more scared than you ever felt in your life.
I can attest to that personally.
There you go.
I mean, the only reason I don't like hardcore is because of how violent it can be. Like, I grew up in a place where the hardcore kids were pretty gnarly,
Oh, yeah.
like tough, like straight edge. It was all straight edge.
Straight
So
edge
with that
kids,
same
yeah.
shitty punk club, what's that?
Those straight edge kids will come at you.
What'd you say?
Nothing. It's okay. Move on.
Oh.
It's okay.
That same shitty punk club I used to go to when I was a kid, we would go to ska shows or emo shows or whatever, punk shows, pop punk, and it was all cool. And we would just skateboard and smoke weed and drink if we could find it and things like that. And that's what we would do outside the show, and that's just what happened. And then you go to all those shows, and it was fun. And nobody gave a shit. And then you go to the hardcore shows, and they would just like beat you up and
Yeah.
kick you around for not being, like that.
Yeah.
Also, we had to, like I said, we had to go to a place that was terrifying, Like, we had to go to a place that was just absolutely,
You go to
you could just get stabbed by someone else.
Yeah.
There was Nazi, there was Nazi gangs and skinhead gangs and shit. Like, I don't think you see that anymore. But
Not
it
as
used to
much.
be more dangerous, I agree.
Yeah, you'd be 16 years old. You'd have to go to some like terrible corner of 3 towns over and be amongst people who were in real bad shape. Anyway, okay,
Yeah.
so
And
let's focus up. So you said you used to be more closed-minded even as a young punk, but you're getting more open-minded now. I was very intrigued. So there's a need for sexual exploration or experimentation, however you'd like to phrase it, that you feel like maybe
for sure.
maybe that's part of your inability to settle down thus far in life.
Perhaps. I mean, I guess maybe, I'd never admitted to myself that I could even be attracted to a man until very recently, which again seems so fucking crazy to say out loud because I spent my life in a community that even back then when it was more dangerous, there was an emphasis on open-mindedness. I mean, at least in this like broad, non-consumerist, non-conformist way that was juvenile, but it was still there, I mean, I had Propagandi's records when I was 14 years old that just said anti-racist, anti-homophobe, all that shit all over it. And I loved it. And I thought it was a beautiful thing. But even growing up around that shit, I still felt like here I am fucking 18 years later. And I'm like embarrassed to admit, or it's only recently that I can admit to myself that I have like sexual feelings for people that aren't exclusively women, and then the idea of having romantic feelings for them is still so new. So then I think, I'm 31 years old, and all of a sudden I'm having these feelings, and I'm admitting them myself, and that's the first step towards acting on them, and then I'm acting on them. And then I'm thinking, well, I'm embracing these ideas, but it's like, I spent fucking 30, am I cursing too much? I spent 30 years telling myself I'm a straight man,
Yeah.
And I don't know how to, like, it's not like I'm bummed. I mean, I'm proud of myself for doing these things, but there's a little bit of confusion in that. There's a little bit of anxiety in that because it just opens the door to so many things that you think, well, where am I? And I'm, that had a lot to do with leaving my ex, but it's like, well, if that's the case, then, where do I go from here? And if there's that many options, if everybody I meet is somebody I could love, I don't know. It's maybe I'm a little confused and maybe I'm a little anxious to understand myself. And I think that there's something inside of me that makes me want to really pin it down when I don't think it needs to be. Does that make sense?
Well, it's an interesting world, right? Like we're shifting from a world that has some very firm, solid lines in regards to how we classify this exact type of thing into a world that's much more willing to have dotted lines or no lines at all. and that's really beautiful.
Yeah, and I feel like I was like amidst the transition. Like when I was young, it was hardly there, and now it's so there that I feel like I'm almost. It's harder for me to embrace it because I was raised in I was raised in a time when it was not something you'd really embraced or talked about, and now the formative years of my life are gone, and now I'm in a place where I feel more comfortable being who I am. And is that just something that comes with age? Is the world changing? Probably both. I mean, I was raised by immigrants to a degree. Like my grandparents are immigrants, and there's a lot of like heavy patriarchal shit going on there. And
yeah, religious shit.
Man, like as much as I want to, it's in me forever.
Of course, man.
I can work with it, but it's there.
You don't have to tell me twice. I'm an Irish Catholic. It'll never leave. So I want to be clear. So it sounds like you've just so I can be clear about where you're at. It sounds like you have entered a phase where you are, how would I put it? You are sort of testing your new open-mindedness. You're taking action on it, but maybe still not totally. You're still overwhelmed by that. So it sounds like you've had some hookups. You've started to explore, but it's still kind of a mind fuck for you that it's going down.
Yeah, but then that's where it gets into some hairy shit, though, because the thing about it is that because I do what I do for a living, it's like there are times and places where it's not, like when I first broke up with my girlfriend, for example, I was in this place where you just start you just jump into every bar and you throw your hands up and you say, let's all fuck, you're just in that mood where you're just like, you want to be social.
Works?
Like
Does that work?
I need to. No,
does that work when you run into a bar, throw your hands in the air, and yell, "Let's all fuck"? Does that work out?
Only metaphorically.
I've had a couple stretches where I was single and really out on the town, and even in my most hound dog days, I don't remember ever running into a bar and shouting, "Let's all fuck," and having that work.
Yeah, going to the wrong bars, pal. No,
maybe the right ones, my friend.
I think that. I think that what I meant was that I was in a place where I wanted to explore, so I was exploring. And as you noticed, I'm someone who talks a good deal, and I'm very friendly and I'm very approachable. And again, I'm a small person, so I'm very non-threatening and I'm very goofy. So I come up to you in a random public place. Chances are you're going to entertain what I have to say and not think that I don't have a very imposing nature. So I just talk to people, and it's never been difficult for me to have a sexual experience with someone, or just like approach people, talk to them, make friends. And, all throughout my life, it's been very easy for me to have sex and things like that. And when I was first single, I embraced it and I went for it. But then I stopped giving a shit because I got past that phase and I didn't really want to be, sex became less important to me because I was out of that phase of a breakup where you just are free and you try things. But in that time period, I was traveling a lot and I was doing things that are difficult to admit, just because I mentioned earlier about being attracted to trans people. I had no idea how to meet trans people, except for the illegal way.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
I don't know if that's obvious, if you know what I mean.
Meaning
just like
a money exchanged for sex type situation.
That's correct.
Oh, wow.
It's just one of those things where I knew it was there, and it wasn't. I don't know. Those are the examples of things where I struggle with it, and sometimes it feels like this beautiful sense of exploration, and sometimes it feels like, and I mentioned before about fidelity and cheating on all the girlfriends I had in the past, and never being able to, I just got off on the idea of doing something that was wrong, jumping into making out with girls in stairwells in high school, and sneaking around with my friends' girlfriends and things. I got off on that shit because it was fucked up, and I don't know. And so that's where, then you take that and you work on that throughout your 20s, because that's what you do. And you fuck yourself over, and then you build it back up. And then I tried again, with her, and I was like, this is different. It was, But then when all was said and done, it wasn't, because then when you put that shit on top of the other thing I just said, it's like that's where I start to wonder if sex addiction is a more appropriate term than overexcitable or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if addiction is a part of this, because I mean, it's certain. I mean, you said you have ADHD, and I know those things can tie together. It certainly sounds like you maybe have some there's some impulsivity issues in there, and maybe you're chasing some adrenaline rushes, huh?
For sure, and that's what makes me feel like it's more of an addiction-based thing than it is just a I don't know, issue. I don't know. I mean, where does it end? You know, I don't know. Because it's something that I've explored with my therapist to a degree, but it's also something that doesn't rule my life all the time, and it's changed so much since I was younger that I don't feel concerned about it anymore. And you know, I don't know. I mean, what's so horrible about hiring a sex worker? But I still feel shame, and I'm nervous right now thinking about people identifying me and knowing that I've done that. You know, that makes me anxious. And
well, I'll say this. Let me say this, because here's what I'm wrapping my head around is I don't judge sex workers, and you know, I've talked to some on the show one-on-one. They're human beings, and one thing I will say is my understanding, and I'm no expert, my understanding is that in the trans community, there's a reputation for some sex work that maybe is rooted in the fact that it is such an extremely marginalized community where there's fewer options, if that makes sense.
I'm sorry, that it is what?
That the trans community faces such marginalization that sometimes people might become sex workers because there's not many other options, might be the fear. That maybe it's a type of sex work. And I don't want to judge and I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but the fear would be that in that community, which has faced a lot of struggle and a lot of, like I said, marginalization, that you worry that people are backed into a corner. But who am I to say? I don't know. I didn't meet the person you were with.
Yeah, I agree. I will say this. One of the hardest things about it when I didn't want to fetishize someone that brave and that able to. I was 30 years old and just being able to admit to myself that I was attracted to it. And then there's people, and that was so hard. And then I think about people who have been incapable of feeling comfortable for their entire lives because of the socialization of gender, and something I've never had to deal with, and it's something I've never seen firsthand. And I was very cautious because I didn't want to fetishize someone that was just living their goddamn life. And it's just, so I was scared to indulge in any way. And I think that was one thing that made the idea of a sex worker so attractive, because you know, it was someone that I didn't have to, I was afraid to offend them, and I was afraid to do the wrong thing or maybe be disrespectful. But you know, it's funny because I'm sure I was the only person that she saw that night that before and afterwards had a conversation with her about life and who she really was. It wasn't that kind of situation where I assume that happens very often.
Wow. Wow, this one took some turns. I also want to put out there that underrated lookout catalog entry, Servotron.
I don't know that one.
You don't know Servotron?
No.
A bunch of the guys from Man or Astro Man pretending they were robots, writing songs about robots taking over the world. Yeah. It was really great.
I liked that thing that happened every once in a while. Like Green Day had that band where they just wore masks.
Yeah.
What was that band called?
There's a million.
They had that song Money Money 2020.
Yeah. A lot of weirdo bits. Anyway, let's focus back up. I was just trying to break the tension by bringing up Servotron. Look them up. I sing the body. I will. Cybernetic. That's that band's big hit, as they say.
Sounds wonderful.
So there's some aspect. I'm listening to you and I'm going, you know what? There's some aspects to which I'm going, you know what? Sexual freedom is an important thing. I think there's a lot of people whose heads get messed up because they are trained to stuff their impulses and their desires deep down out of shame, and I think that messes people's heads up, and it's dumb. But it also sounds like you're maybe putting yourself in some truly impulsive situations that even some of the things you said since you were a kid, it sounds like there's a pattern of behavior here that's not necessarily the healthiest, huh? And you know that. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and say let's take a break there because things got very intense. Things got very unexpected. The floodgates have broken, as you can imagine, and the rest of this call, we got a lot to deal with now. Also, I brought up Servotron, one of the underrated weirdo bands of the 90s. Check them out. Also, check out our advertisers who are coming up, you guys. They've got products, they've got services, they've got promo codes. Use the promo codes if you're so inclined. Helps Beautiful Anonymous when you do. We'll be back right after this with more phone call. You ever feel stressed or anxious? I have. Everybody knows that about me. If you listen to the show, you know anxiety is a real thing to me. You ever have trouble sleeping? I have had that as well. Especially when things were at their worst for me as far as my anxiety. That's when the sleeping goes. What are the coping tools? Right? That's a question you got to ask yourself. That's why we're excited to partner with Calm, the #1 app for sleep, meditation, and relaxation. Calm gives you the tools you need to live a happier, healthier, and more mindful life. Just 5 minutes of Calm can change your whole day. No wonder it was named Apple's 2017 App of the Year. Interested in trying? Go to calm.com/beautiful and get 25% off a Calm premium subscription, which includes hundreds of hours of premium programs like guided meditations on anxiety, stress, focus, and relationships with a brand new meditation each day called the Daily Calm, sleep stories, which are like bedtime stories for grown-ups, and so much more. For a limited time, Beautiful Anonymous listeners can get 25% off a Calm premium subscription at calm.com/beautiful. It includes unlimited access to all of Calm's amazing content. Get started today at calm.com/beautiful. That's calm.com/beautiful. Thanks again to all of our sponsors for helping us bring this show to the world. Now let's finish off the phone call. Even some of the things you said since you were a kid, it sounds like there's a pattern of behavior here that's not necessarily the healthiest, huh? And you know that. Yeah,
I mean, for sure. That's kind of where it all comes. That's where the idea comes from, is that, you know, I'm like, because I couldn't admit it to myself, or because I didn't know how to do it and I didn't have the guts to just do it, or whatever it was, I did things that, like, I mean, you know, you see doing that, and with her, with that situation specifically, is something where, like, you are putting yourself at risk of, I mean, it's legal, you know? Mm-hmm. And what if that happened to me, I couldn't do my job. Mm-hmm. Probably, at least not in the same way. So like, it could have damaging effects, and, you know, that's not my fault, but it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be something that is so illegal, and it should be something that, I mean, I don't have any extreme or really fleshed out opinions on the politics, but it seems a little strange that it would be illegal for someone to sell their own body if they want to, but it's not that simple either. A lot of these people are coming from very hard situations and are like, have no choice, and that's fucked up. But I don't know. I don't understand it, and I don't begin to, but I did it in the most respectful way I knew how, but it's still putting myself in a situation that's dangerous to feed an impulse that's under, like, that I barely understand about myself. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty addiction. It seems like something that people do when they're addicted to things.
Well, even you just saying, I mean, you saying that when you were a kid, you like to sneak off into a hallway and make out because you might get caught, or that you've made out with people who you knew the boyfriends, right? You said that, like, I think you used some phrase like, I would get off on stuff that felt bad. It was bad to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I get it. I get it, but it certainly sounds like you're hitting your 30s now, and that you might be doubling down on that.
Maybe. But I think that
only
there's a lot about it that I understand now
of
that I
course,
didn't then.
and I hope that's very true. But there's something to be said for you've put people in a situation in the past where I would imagine you've messed up some of your own relationships. And you hurt some ex-girlfriends, I would imagine, and
Absolutely.
all of that just throws your own life into chaos over and over again. And that's what I think is so concerning to me. No judgment of the feelings you're feeling or the desires you're acting on. But I will just express to you, my friend, the nervous interrupter, a real concern that this side of your psyche, when you act on it in a way that's like a wrecking ball. And that's dangerous.
I agree with you. And I think that is something that I've already begun to figure out because, like I said, there was that phase after the relationship where I was very excited about trying new things, and then that led me to do other things. So then the other aspect of it is that I, since then, being able to say those things to myself, that I'm attracted to those kind of, to people and to anything, and that there is no one thing, and then being able to say that aloud to people that I respected, and then to be able to just say it in conversation like it didn't matter because it doesn't. That I think may have contributed to a lot of the ways that I was in the past. So then it gave me a bit of clarity to just be able to say it and to just be able to admit it and then understand it as something that wasn't so horrible. Like, what's so bad about it? I think just being able to do that made me realize that I don't know. A lot of the ways that it scared me that I was that way have become far more manageable since I admitted to myself that I had just a non-conventional idea of love and sex.
Well, I think that's very eye-opening. So you're saying the fact that you had some feelings that were unspoken and unacted upon meant that the way you did act on the feelings even close to them had to be kept
because I had to do it
a little underground,
a
little secret.
Yeah, because that's why I was doing the things that I was doing and sneaking around, because I was afraid of the sexual urges and what they meant, and being able to admit that there was a different way of it, and add on, years of learning from mistakes, and it made it easier to understand that, and I feel like it is one of the most defining revelations of my life. I mean, I've changed so much just from being able to admit that, and I never would have done that if I hadn't left my ex, and that's a wonderful thing. And I wish to high heaven that she didn't hate me, but people come and go, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I've changed a lot just from having understood it, and I still think it's probably something that I should talk to my therapist more about. And at least I'm aware enough now to know when I know the worst that it could be. I know the worst that I could do to myself with any of it, and how self-destructive it can be. And I don't, I do worry about someday being able to make a decision that silly in a future relationship. But I think that so much has changed since then that, like, just admitting it has made me able to see a future where I can be with someone absolutely and not be hiding things from them.
Yeah, I mean,
in fact, I could never. That would have to come out almost immediately. At this point, all of the things I've done, like my current ex-girlfriend doesn't even know that she was the only girlfriend I ever had that I didn't cheat on, because I could never admit it to her.
Wow.
Because I was afraid that she would see me for the, this fucking monster that is, I sometimes look at myself as, like this piece of shit that just cheats on everybody and doesn't give a fuck about anybody but himself, and then, runs away on tour and fucks off, and nobody, Can't find me. Bye. I don't know.
I'm glad to hear you're sorting it out because, again, the last thing I want to be is an armchair shrink at all. But
no, I get that.
Of course, but it doesn't sound far off from how other people talk about other types of addictions. I wouldn't be surprised if you check a lot of boxes for the whole sex addiction thing. But I think so much of it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I did that little...
It doesn't so much of it make sense that you're talking about how we basically live in a very, very puritanical society and culture, and we try to keep things in these boxes, and the boxes, simply put, do not work. They probably never have, and they're working progressively less than they ever have. And so much of why these things have to come in a form of sort of acting out in a dangerous way is because you grow up feeling completely uncomfortable with these feelings that you don't choose, that you don't dictate to yourself. That comes down to your biology, your chemistry, or your inclinations that you choose along the way. Either way, if you don't spend so much time feeling like these things are shameful, then you don't have to hide them. And that means you don't have to hide them from other people. That means you don't have to cheat. That means you don't have to do things in secrecy because of what does this say about me overall? No one else can know. I think if it's so funny we'd spend so much time talking about punk rock because isn't that what punk rock is about? Of like, fuck society and fuck what's normal. Go figure out who you are. Do it loud and proud,
yeah,
man.
Can I tell you something that's like fucks me up though? That I think about and it fucks me up a lot.
Yeah.
This idea that like I said before about how I come from this when I was coming up, things were a lot different, and so much of who I am, immigrants, patriarchal shit that I mentioned earlier, and then the punk rock shit that was still very different back then. So much of who I am was, and I didn't have a father, so I looked to all these fucking singers, these lead singers, to give me advice, like all their little, their best lines that people have tattooed across their collarbones, or like those were my fucking fathers. It's like in, that Jim Carrey movie where he's fucking, where's the one with him and Matthew Broderick, where he like gets raised by the television set.
The cable
That's how
guy?
I feel, man.
The cable guy?
The cable guy. I don't know why I couldn't think of it.
Another
What a
Judd
fantastic
Apatow
movie.
production.
Fucking A.
My whole life comes back to Judd Apatow over and over again.
I feel like a lot of people can say that, and that's what Freaks and Geeks seems. He seems like a wonderful teacher. I'm grateful for him.
He's a great man.
Anyway, I feel like I was, in a lot of ways, raised by the fucking music I listen to, and that's a part of who I am, and it's in my soul so fucking deeply. And then I feel slighted by it. Now I'm 30 years old, and I'm only now able to admit to myself, and I don't mean to put it on, it's my responsibility, and that's that, but, I just feel like I am afraid of the fact that I am the age that I am, and that I'm only now being able to become comfortable, and all the waste I've laid in all of it. It's like, I don't know. I feel like if I was, whatever, I guess I was going to say, I feel like if I was born 10 years later, then I would have had an easier time understanding who I was. But who the fuck understands who they are, first of all? And second of all, how many times have I ever said to myself, if I was born 10 years earlier, I would have felt better or something? I don't know. I think I'm just confused, and I think I'm just working something out.
Yeah, you're working a lot out. That's okay. We all are.
Yeah.
I tell you what, too,
I'm
though.
also very alone, though.
Yeah, I don't
have a lot of friends. Well, I do, but none of them are here. None of them are where I live. I spend most of my time alone, so I think it's different. Like I said, man, you caught me. After this, I have to imagine we only have a little while left, and after
about
this, I go
6
to
minutes.
Yeah.
Go back on the road.
Go fly to far away and go and do a thing. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, you're the only person that I've spoken to out loud, except for my neighbor, in days. I called my mom yesterday. That's it.
Dude, you're depressed.
Yeah, for sure, Chris.
You're freaked out. You're freaked out about where your head's at, and you're depressed.
Can I tell you another thing, though, that I want to say, just so that it's not just check out how much of a pile of shit, of mess I've been since my relationship ended? Since my relationship ended, I also quit smoking cigarettes. I smoked a pack a day for over 10 years, and I never tried to quit once. I quit cold turkey a few months ago. I'm on 4 months now.
Nice. Congrats.
Thank you. And then I also started like going to the gym a bunch and get my body together, just as like a sheerly out of boredom. But I think that like today and the past few days, I've been having a very hard time inside my head. But I mentioned earlier about like having the massive revelation of just being able to admit some things to myself. The time since I've been alone here has there's a lot of good things have happened.
That's good.
But the past few days have been oddly difficult, and I just maybe that's just how depression works sometimes. Sometimes you're just fucked.
Yeah, in my experience, it is. I'll tell you what, too. Here's another thing I want to say. You'd brought up something before about like, man, I'm 31, and I'm just figuring this stuff up now, and I'm kind of like beating myself about that. I will say that there's obviously some truth to that, and you can't get time back. But in the same way that we're saying, like, it's kind of this idea that you have to be option A or option B is exposing itself as more and more bullshit as time goes on. I would also just put out there for you not to beat yourself up about being 31, because a lot of people never figure it out, or a lot of people have like struggles that they should be figuring out that they opt not to figure out, and then it just kind of tears their whole life down. So 31 ain't that old is my point. 31 is not that old, especially these days.
I agree. I think that I give myself a lot of shit, like my best days are behind me. And I think that that's one of the biggest things that stands in my way. I don't know. I think I'm in my own way a lot. I think that, I give people advice. Like I'm like someone who I think that people turn to for advice all the time. Like I'm somebody, I love helping my friends, and I tell my friends constantly to call me whenever they need to, and I listen to them, and I tell them so many things. And I tell people all the time, I always say nine times out of 10, the only thing standing in between you and what you want is you and not what you want. That's like something that I like said once, remembered, and was like, that's good advice. I tell myself all the time, and I tell people all the time, because it's a wonderful thing to say and think. And and that's like something that here I am, like I'm just in my own fucking way. I just didn't, but it's not always this way. And it's strange that we would have this conversation today, because today is probably the worst I've felt in a very long time. And I've had such good experiences, so many good experiences recently. In the past, 7 months since I've been single, I've had mostly good times, a lot of really positive experiences. And then for some reason, past few days, I've been
really sorry to hear that.
I've been in a state of mind that's interesting for a beautiful anonymous podcast.
I'm really sorry to hear it. Sorry to hear that you're hurting.
Thank you, man. I think that's all that. The only thing that really helps. Actually, one of my really good friends is in a band that people love, and I was talking to her last night about depression, and I was about to text her when I got the notification of your tweet saying to call in to be on the show, and I was about to text her and tell her that last night when she gave me empathy and shared her problems with me, it made me realize that like one of the only things that helps with depression is when someone that you trust tells you that they're also fucked up. Because, seeing other people be okay makes you wonder that, like, you're not, like, you can't be or something. Like, there's always going to be something wrong with you, and you'll always be fucked up, and you may as well just feel fucked up. I don't know. It does it to me. And her telling me that she was okay, or that she was fucked up and not okay, made everything. It meant it was the only thing that made me feel better. And then I watched that Freaking Geeks documentary and cried. But I was about to text her, and then you interrupted me, so thanks, Chris.
Well, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I got in the way. We have 1 minute left. I want to respond to what you just said and say, you know what I found out in my travels, and not just through this show, and not just because I've spoken publicly about my own problems, but I feel like you could ask anybody at any given time, are you doing okay? And it's just a total crapshoot over whether the answer is a yes or no. And it shifts all the time for all of us. And when this shit is at its worst, you feel so alone. And that's one of the first little tricks it plays on you, is convincing you you're alone. You're far from alone. We're all fucked up. Everybody's united. None of us are fucked up in the same way, but a whole lot of us at any given time are real fucked up. And we got to remember that, because at the very least, just like punk rock, there's strength in numbers. All the freaks in the alley.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly, man. It makes a world of difference it's so easy to understand. It's so easy to believe that you're not alone. And yeah, I know that, but being reminded of it is the only thing that helps sometimes.
Hey, we're about to run out of time. I hope you feel better.
Thank you for doing what you do, man.
Thank you. And I hope I hope you figure it all out in a way that's not destructive to you and to others. And I hope you can embrace yourself and be true to yourself and unashamed, and that lack of shame gives it a more firm foundation to stand on. And also, how much does it suck that Ben Weasel went nuts and we can't like Screeching Weasel anymore? Because those songs are still catchy, goddammit. Caller, I really meant it. Thank you for calling, and I so genuinely hope that you sort that out. You had said a few times throughout the call that you want to talk more with your shrink about this, and I always give that a thumbs up, as everybody knows. I hope you keep opening up about it. I hope you keep figuring yourself out. I hope you keep sort of seeing where your impulses are coming from and finding the healthy way to act on them. The healthy way. Being the most important thing, right? Because it's out there. It's out there once we shake off all the shame and the guilt and the stuff like that. So much love to you. Thank you to Jared O'Connell and Harry Nelson in the booth. Thank you to Justin Linville for helping me organize my life. Thank you, Shellshag, for the music. I go out on the road. I do stand-up comedy all the time. Maybe I'm coming to your town. ChrisGeth.com is where you can find out. If you like Beautiful Anonymous, rate, review, subscribe on Apple Podcasts. It really helps so much when you do. See you next time on Beautiful Anonymous.
Kiss me face to face.
Next time on Beautiful Anonymous, perhaps the busiest person I have ever talked to. You have a 4-year-old son, you're going to school full-time, and you're working a job that makes you cry full-time.
Yes.
Wow. Do you do like a lot of online courses? How do you juggle all that?
So I go to school 3 times a week for 3 classes, and then I do 2 online classes. My son's dad has our son 3 times a week, so I go to school those days that he's with his dad.
You must be exhausted.
Yes. Lots of coffee and espresso shots.
That's next time on Beautiful Anonymous. Hey everybody, it's Chris. As you've probably heard, got a new series, Beautiful Follow-Ups. We're following up with some of the all-time great callers from the history of this show. Here's me saying hello to a bunch of them.
Thank you for following up with Beautiful Anonymous.
Hey, Gaff.
Hello, old friend. Hello?
Hello, this is...
I'm not supposed to know that.
It's good to hear your voice, Chris. I'm glad to be able to do this with you.
Hey, it's Gethard.
Hey, Gethard. Good to hear from you.
Hey, is this the Puppet Master?
This is the Puppet Master. How are you?
Hey, this is Gethard.
Chris Gethard, how are you?
Beautiful Follow-Ups. Come join me on Stitcher Premium. We'll all catch up with some old friends together. And guess what? You get a free month if you go to StitcherPremium.com/stories. Use the code STORIES.
Oh baby, come back. Oh baby, come back. It's not the same since you left.
Hey, this is Arnie from the comedy podcast Hello from the Magic Tavern, a chat show I host from the magical land of Foon with my co-hosts
Usador, the Blue Wizard,
and Chunt, the Shapeshifter.
Most weeks we interview adventurers,
wedding planners,
ambulatory trees.
But this week we have a special episode.
I am so excited to learn about the Earth lore contained in Pride and Prejudice.
We're going to do a book club of Pride and Prejudice.
And you said this is a well-loved book on Earth, right?
Yeah, it's one of those books that people love or were forced to read, or more more likely it's one of those I'm gonna get to it's.
And some of our most beloved guests are returning to read the book with us and enjoy some drinks and food over book club.
We have Flower, we have Crom the Barbarian.
And Germ.
You know who they are.
Maybe you don't give a crap about what an academic thinks about Jane Austen, but don't you want to know what a wizard and a badger think about it?
Not enough spells.
Not enough grubs.
Not enough sword fights.
Whether you love Pride and Prejudice or have no interest in reading it and just want to listen to a book club go really off the rails, you'll enjoy this week's Hello from the Magic Tavern.
We shall defeat this book!